Nick Castellanos is a well-known baseball player. He is an outfielder, and he's famous for hitting the ball very hard. Over the course of his career, he's played for several teams. The Philadelphia Phillies signed him to a big contract, hoping he would help them win a championship. Castellanos is known for being a very passionate player. He really plays with a lot of emotion. Sometimes, though, this emotion can get him into trouble. He speaks his mind and is not afraid to say what he is thinking. That's honestly part of what makes him such an interesting player to watch. Now, the 2025 season was a tough one for Castellanos. His performance wasn't as strong as he had hoped, and the team was also facing some challenges. During a series in Miami, things reached a boiling point. Castellanos was playing in front of his friends and family, which made the game even more important to him. He really wanted to perform well and help his team win. But things just didn't go the way he wanted. This led to a very unusual situation in the Phillies dugout, one that would be talked about for a long time. Frustration can build up for any professional athlete. The pressure to win is always there. The pressure from the fans, the media, and even from yourself can be immense. For Castellanos, this frustration was about more than just one bad game. He felt that the team was not operating in a way that would lead to success. He believed there were problems that needed to be addressed. He saw rules that he thought were too strict, and he also saw other areas where he felt there was not enough discipline. This growing feeling set the stage for a memorable moment. That specific game in Miami really became a turning point. The manager, Thomson, decided to make a change and took Castellanos out of the game for a defensive substitution. This is a pretty normal baseball move, but for Castellanos, it felt like a personal slight. It happened in his hometown, right in front of people he knew. This action by the manager was the final straw. It just pushed his frustration over the edge. He decided he needed to make a statement and wanted to make his feelings known to the person in charge. His next move would be one that nobody expected. After being removed from the game, Nick Castellanos did something shocking. He didn't just go to the end of the bench and sit quietly. Instead, he walked down the tunnel and came back with a beer. It was a bottle of Presidente, which is a pretty popular brand. Bringing alcohol into the dugout during a game is a major violation of baseball's rules. It's just something that is simply not done. The dugout is a professional workplace. His decision to bring the beer was a bold and honestly pretty defiant act. It was his way of showing his extreme frustration with the team and its rules. He didn't try to hide the beer at all. He walked directly over to his manager, Thomson, and sat down right next to him on the bench. This was a direct confrontation. He wanted the manager to see the beer, and he wanted to have a conversation right then and there. This was not a quiet complaint. It was a public display in front of the entire team. Castellanos was challenging the manager's authority, sending a clear message that he was unhappy. The beer was a symbol of his discontent, and he was ready to speak his mind. With the bottle in hand, Castellanos began to talk to Thomson. He didn't yell or scream. He just spoke directly about his feelings. He told the manager that he felt the team's culture was a problem. He said, "Too much slack in some areas and too tight of restrictions in others are not conducive to us winning." He was criticizing the way the team was being run. He believed the rules were inconsistent, and he felt that these issues were stopping the Phillies from being a championship team. He was risking his career to make this point. This was a very tense moment in the Phillies dugout. A player was openly challenging his manager during a game, and he was holding a beer as he did it. The other players on the team watched this happen, and it created a really awkward and uncomfortable situation. The game against the Miami Marlins was still going on, but for a few moments, all the attention was on the drama unfolding on the bench. Castellanos had made his point. Now, everyone had to figure out what would happen next. The situation could easily get much worse. As Nick Castellanos sat next to his manager, ready to make his point even clearer, his teammates stepped in. They saw the beer in his hand and understood how bad the situation looked. Before he could even take a single sip of the Presidente, his teammates and another team staffer, Howie, acted quickly. They took the beer away from him. This was a crucial moment. They were protecting their teammate from making an even bigger mistake. Drinking the beer would have crossed a line that would be very difficult to come back from. His teammates weren't angry with him. They understood his frustration, but they also knew that his actions were wrong and could have some serious consequences. By taking the beer, They were de-escalating the situation. They were trying to prevent a bad moment from turning into a career-ending one. It showed that despite the tension, the players still had each other's backs. They stopped him from breaking a major rule, and their quick thinking likely saved Castellanos from a much harsher punishment from the league and the team. The team had to respond to the incident. You just can't have a player bring a beer into the dugout and challenge the manager without consequences. The next day, the Phillies announced that Nick Castellanos was benched for 1 game. This was the team's official punishment for his actions. For such a public display of defiance, a 1-game benching was actually a relatively light penalty. It suggested that the team understood his frustration, even if they didn't approve of how he expressed it. The team handled the discipline internally. After the incident, Castellanos knew he had made a mistake. He met with his manager, Thomson, to apologize. The team's president, Dombrowski, was also in the meeting. Castellanos explained his actions and said he was sorry for the way he handled things. He even offered to speak to the media to explain what happened and take responsibility. However, the team told him not to. They preferred to keep the matter private and move on. Castellanos accepted their decision and served his 1-game punishment without further complaint. Although the incident was handled quickly, it left a lasting mark. The relationship between Nick Castellanos and the Phillies organization was clearly strained. I mean, a player bringing a beer into the dugout to confront a manager is not something that's easily forgotten. It spoke to deeper issues within the clubhouse. Even though he apologized, the trust had been damaged. The rest of the 2025 season continued, but the memory of that night in Miami really lingered. It became a symbol of a frustrating and disappointing year for both the player and the team. The damage from the incident, combined with his performance on the field, made his future with the team uncertain. As the months passed, it became clear that a change was likely. On February 12, 2026, the news became official. The Philadelphia Phillies announced that they were releasing Nick Castellanos. This was a significant move. He still had 1 year and $20 million remaining on his contract. The team was willing to pay that money just to part ways with him, which really showed how serious the divide had become. Once he was released, Castellanos was no longer bound by the team's request for silence. He went on his Instagram account and told his side of the story. He explained the frustration that led to him bringing the Presidente beer into the dugout. He shared the details of his conversation with Thomson and his subsequent apology. He wanted the fans to understand the context behind the event. By speaking out, he took control of the narrative. He was now a free agent, able to sign with any other team that might want him. The story of Nick Castellanos and the beer in the dugout serves as a cautionary tale. It shows how pressure and frustration can cause a player to act in ways that harm their career. While his passion is one of his strengths, it also led to a moment that ended his time in Philadelphia. He is now looking for a new team, hoping for a fresh start. The Phillies moved on, closing a chapter that was defined by both big hits and big drama. For new baseball fans, it's a clear example of how off-field actions can be just as important as on-field performance.